In this video, we are going to proceed to the module number 3, which is describe cloud service types. Now remember, initially we have learned about IaaS in very short. I mean, we haven't got details of what is IaaS, what is PaaS, what is SaaS. So IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, right? IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. So these are the three things which we will learn in depth in this video, and identify appropriate use cases for each cloud services. All these things we are going to cover. So in this video, what you can expect, we are going to go through all of this topic in this video, and I will try to give the best explanation possible on each of this topic. So let's get started. There are three cloud service types. One is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. That means infrastructure as a service, very important to remember. The other one is platform as a service, and the third one is software as a service. Now first we have to learn infrastructure as a service. So what is infrastructure? So when you hear this word infrastructure, what comes to your mind? So when I hear infra, I get to imagine, let's say a building, right? A building. Now imagine the building is owned by somebody. Building is owned by somebody. So I'll approach that owner and tell him, you give me this building. I'm going to pay you the entire building, which has 3 floors. Let's imagine the building has got 3 floors. So I approached the owner and said, I'm going to pay you X amount every month for this entire building. So we have negotiated the cost and we signed an agreement, and then the entire house is mine. Now I got the infrastructure. Okay. Now how to use it? For example, once I got the building, I can give it for rent. I can use it myself. I can use one for a studio, one for my own thing. I can give it to my own brother. I can give it to my friend. So it's up to me how I would like to use that. It is up to me how I would like to use it. So the infrastructure belongs to the owner. I am paying for that infrastructure, but it's up to me how I would like to use it. Now, the same thing, how it works with cloud, we will understand. But before that, the benefit, let's understand. Benefit means the IaaS. This could be a question, okay? Out of all the 3 service types, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, which one is most flexible? Then your answer is IaaS is the most flexible cloud service. Where you get the maximum control is IaaS. So what is this IaaS? Let's understand. But remember, these 2 words which are highlighted are very important. Most flexible IaaS, max control is IaaS. Infrastructure as a service. So I'm buying the infrastructure. How I would like to use it, it's up to me. Most flexible, and I have maximum control. Okay. Now what is this flexibility? What is this maximum control? Let's understand. The cloud provider, the cloud provider, in this case, for example, Azure, Microsoft Azure, they are responsible to maintain the hardware. For example, I am getting a virtual machine from the cloud vendor. So they are responsible to maintain the hardware of that VM, like the hard drive, like the CPU, like the RAM. If RAM got burnt out, they will replace it. So whatever is required, battery, power backup. So all the hardwares will be maintained by them. If something goes wrong, for example, the building I got, now let's say something broken, the pipe is broken or something broken, the hardwares are broken, the fan is not working. So who will take it? The owner has to come and fix it. The hardware is taken care by the cloud vendor in this case. Okay. Network connectivity to the internet. So the VM should be having connectivity to the internet. So all these things are done by physical security. This is also responsibility of the cloud provider. They will take care of all these three important parts: maintaining the hardware, network connectivity, physical security of their own data center is taken care by the cloud provider. Now I am a consumer here. So what is the consumer responsibility? Now consumer is responsible to install OS. So OS installation, just imagine you got a laptop from your friend and you are paying him some rent every month for the laptop. But in that laptop, you want to install Linux, you want to install Windows OS, Windows Server, whatever you like to install, it's up to you. He is only taking the rent for the laptop. Every month I'm paying him something. So OS installation and configuration is the consumer responsibility. Whatever I like, I can install it. So that's why you got maximum flexibility and maximum control, because all this you are installing, right? You got maximum control. Now, software. What are the software should be there in that? That as a consumer, I can decide, I can install, I can configure. Okay. Database, storage related things, installation configuration is my responsibility. Network configuration, right? This is also my responsibility. So all this responsibility is with me. That means I also have maximum flexibility, what I want, how I want, and I have maximum control on all of these components. So that's why it is told the IaaS gives you the maximum flexibility and maximum control. Very, very important point. Remember this. So whenever it comes to your mind, think you have taken a laptop in rent from your friend, and it's up to you what you want to install, which software you want to install, which software you want to uninstall, where you would like to keep. Would you like to keep your data, which folder, all this thing, configuration, installation, everything you can decide. Okay, you're just paying him for the laptop. OS software database, it's up to you to install it. It's your responsibility to install it. He just gave you a blank laptop. Okay, now, so the important point to remember here, essentially renting hardware from cloud vendor. So what exactly I'm doing? I'm simply renting the hardware from the cloud vendor, and how you use it, it's up to you. You getting it? How you use it, it's up to you. So this is a very important point on IaaS. There are few common scenarios when you would like to use the IaaS service, okay, infrastructure as a service. So what are those common scenarios? For example, I already have a data center on-prem. So when you hear this word on-prem, means on premise. I have an office. In my office, I have a server room where I'm maintaining my own data center. Data center means server room where I have my servers, right? Or where I have all my hardwares and everything to maintain my website. Now let's say I would like to move from on-premise data center to cloud data center. Now all my setup, what OS I have installed, how I have configured my application, what is the how I'm maintaining my database, where I'm maintaining how. So all the configuration, installation, software, MSI files, everything is already with me because I was anyways running the same application on premise data center. Now I would like to move from on premise to cloud services because of its benefits in terms of cost and a lot of things. Now when I've decided, for me, because I already have a setup and all I have to do simply take the hardwares from the cloud vendor and start installing it on my own and doing the configuration because I already have a team who can do it. So when I go for a lift and shift migration, so from on-prem, I would like to put it to cloud, right? So all these things can, in that case, the most preferable thing I would do is I will go infrastructure as a service. I'll go with infrastructure as a service. Okay. The other scenario, testing and development. So I would like to, I have set up a test environment. I have set up a development environment, but I need more VMs. I need more test environments. I need more development environments. In that case also it becomes easy to go with IaaS because I already have some test environments, how to set up, how configuration has been done. I just have to replicate on another hardware. So I'll procure the hardware through this service IaaS. So this is like more service, like you go to a internet vendor. So he'll give you multiple services. Okay, you can only take internet. You can take internet plus DTH. You can take high speed internet with DTH. So they could give you multiple set of services that we can offer you, and they can give you a price. Okay, this is the price for this, this is the price for this, this is the price for this. You can opt. Now, similar way, cloud service would have three different services: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, software as a service. So in this, if I have to set up my test environments and then once done, I want to come out of it, the best option I would choose is IaaS, infrastructure as a service. I'll take the hardwares for rent. I'll use it how I want. And if I'm done, I can come out of it, right? So these are a couple of common scenarios for infrastructure as a service. For the exam preparation, you need to go through a very important table here, which generally tells what are the responsibilities that are there with the customer and what are the responsibilities that will be there with the vendor and common responsibilities, things like that. Okay, this table is very, very important, which tells you the difference between different service types. Okay, so let's understand in a pretty simple way. Now, when I have my on-prem data center, I have to manage everything: the physical data center, the physical network, host, everything I have to manage. Installing the operating system, install what software it has to have, right? All the network controls. So what, there are few terms which might confuse you, okay? Like network controls. So what is done in network controls? Applications, somewhere you can relate. Identity and directory infrastructure. What is exactly done here? I'm going to give you all the examples one by one, okay? So let's get started with IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Now here, the physical data center, because it's a cloud vendor, their own data center could be anywhere in the world. It is distributed across the world. Now, the physical data center is maintained by whom? The cloud vendor. If I have the server, I have the data center in my office, who will be managing? I will be managing. Similar way, because the data center belongs to the cloud vendor, who would be managing? They would be managing. Doesn't matter if you take IaaS, PaaS service or SaaS service. These are different services. Okay, like I gave you the example of the Wi-Fi providers, right? You take 40 Mbps plan, you take 100 Mbps plan. So you have different categories of services, right? You take internet plus TV, DTH. So different, similar way, there are different plans here: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS services. Now, here in the services, maintaining the data center is completely with the cloud vendor. Doesn't matter which service you take. Physical network, how that should communicate to each other, how that is connected to internet, all these things are managed by, let's say you have a Wi-Fi at home. Now that Wi-Fi, when you set it up, it ensures it uses the network from the vendor and then it supplies the Wi-Fi inside my house, right? Does it reach to all my rooms or not? If not, I need to have another device so that the Wi-Fi also reaches to the other rooms. So that any kind of network related configuration, physical network connections are maintained by the cloud vendor. Okay, there are many things. I just gave you an example so that you can relate. Physical host, right? So everything related to physical thing is completely done by cloud vendor. So responsibility transferred to cloud provider. Anything, there are many things actually. The cooling is there, power supply, backup, there are many things. So all these things are maintained by whom? Cloud vendor. This point should be pretty clear. Now the next thing is responsibility varies by type. Now there are a couple of shared responsibilities. That means few things the cloud vendor will do and few things you should do. Those are called shared responsibilities. Now let's look at the IaaS, operating system. So operating system, for example, I am going for IaaS, operating system. So what are the different operating systems that you know? It could be Windows operating system, it could be Linux operating system, it could be Mac OS, it could be any other, right? So different operating systems that are there. Now, which operating system I would like to install in the machine that I procured from the cloud vendor? When I'm in IaaS, it is my complete responsibility. Now, when I go with PaaS services, so there are machines which is already installed with Windows, there are machines which are already installed with Linux. So I can choose which I want. Okay, I need this. I don't have to take the headache of installing. Now, when it comes to operating system, it is not just installing the operating system. Regular security patches will come. You have to install the security patches because you don't want everything to happen automatically and something breaks. You want to take fully control. So in the IaaS, everything related to the software, you take care. You just got the hardware. What software you are going to install, it's completely your responsibility. But in PaaS, you can choose what kind of a software platform you need. For example, I need the Windows platform, so I can choose that. Okay, I need a Linux platform, I can choose it. So the operating system, when you go with PaaS, it is with the cloud vendor. Software as a service, we are going to see it in some time. PaaS also, we are going to see it in some time. So in SaaS also, the operating system is fully controlled and maintained by cloud vendor. Okay, you don't have to install security patches, regular updates, and right, all these things you don't have to worry about. Now the other thing is network control. So these 3 points can be confusing. Network control. So what is the meaning of network? Here we have seen physical network. What is network controls? Applications, identity and directory infrastructure. What are these 3 points? Let's see it. When it comes to network controls, here, for example, what are the things? Firewall rules configuration, right? Now, if I am taking IaaS, it will be my responsibility. But if it is a PaaS, so firewall rule configuration, couple of things will be done. Let's first see this. What are network controls? Okay, what comes under this? We'll go back to the table. Firewall rules and configuration, IP address management, okay, IP address, DNS, all these things, okay. Load balancing, when more traffic comes, how that load, which server or which node it should go, how many nodes I should have. So all these are called network controls. In your mind, simply keep two words, I think pretty simple words: firewall, IP configuration. Just keep that in your mind. Next, with respect to applications. So with respect to application, now any operating system, for example, I'm installing a software. Now that might be dependent on .NET, Java, right? Node.js, Python. So based on, these are the middlewares, right? Middlewares which are required in the system for it to run. .NET framework is required in the system for many applications to run. Applications which are built on .NET framework. So these are middlewares. So this installation, if I go with IaaS, it is on me. I have to install what I want. If I go with PaaS, based on the operating system and things and the platform I'm choosing, many things will be pre-installed and managed by, it is shared responsibility, but it will mostly managed by the cloud. Runtimes will come. Middleware, web server, IaaS, Apache. For example, web server, IaaS, where you set up your web application, whether it should start, restart. There are many configurations we do on IaaS that we would learn later. But all these middlewares, this would come under application category. Databases like SQL Server installation and all those things will come under application. Okay. Development tools, right? Software development kits. All these things would also come under application category. So in network control, just remember firewall, IP. In applications, you remember .NET framework that you have seen. SQL Server database you have to install. Development toolkits, right? Visual Studio, there are many software development toolkits, SDKs, right? So all these things some of the things you can remember under applications. There's one more category called identity and directory infrastructure. So what are the points to remember here? So identity means the user account creation, giving you access to something, right? That all comes under identity. So active directory, you might have heard about this term, active directory. So anything under identity and directory, think of active directory. Okay. Multi-factor authentication. Single sign-on. You might have heard about this word also, single sign-on configuration, right? Once I have logged in, I can open any application. I don't have to always enter username and password. The single sign-on configuration, right? So these are all comes under, many things comes under identity and directory. But to start with, remember few easy words: identity and directory. Active Directory will come to your mind. Then single sign-on will come to your mind. Single sign-on, okay. Identity. So it will automatically identify you and you don't have to enter username and password. So when you remember this couple of terms, now we will go back to the table. Now, when I come back to the table, now it becomes pretty easy, okay. Now look at it. Operating system, you already know it. Operating system means the Windows OS, Linux, or the software patches every week, every month. The vendor would release and you have to install it, right? Security patches. So if you are taking IaaS, everything is your responsibility, consumer's responsibility or the customer's responsibility. Okay. If I go with PaaS, it is fully controlled by cloud vendor. SaaS also fully controlled by cloud vendor, because you are taking a platform. Windows platform, I want Linux platform. This we have understood. Under network controls, what are the words I asked you to remember? Network controls. So network controls means firewall, right? The IP, all these things I said, right? DNS. So all these are in IaaS, you do it completely. In PaaS, few things are already pre-configured for you and few things you manage it, right? Um, uh, and identity and directory, like Active Directory was already installed and everything. So in IaaS, you install it, you manage it. And in PaaS, it is already done. Few things are already configured, installed. You manage couple of things by configuring it as you need. Okay, so these are the shared responsibilities. You do few part, the cloud vendor will do few, because they're selling you a platform. So they will give you few things as a platform. They have installed few things and given to you, and you manage it. Okay, when you go to software as a service, right, identity and directory, single sign-on, multi-factor authentications, and all these things, right? Active Directory configuration, a couple of things are still with you. You wanted to give which user what access, that you define. So few controls are with you. So these 3 points are important: network controls, applications, identity, and directory infrastructure. Okay, just remember, identity directory means identity, single sign-on identity, directory, Active Directory, like that you remember. Now next is accounts and identities. Now accounts and identities, I mean which user, what email ID, user creation, all this would be your responsibility, right? Whom to give. You don't want to give it to the cloud vendor. You know your employees, you want to control it. So it is fully with you. Doesn't matter which service you take. Device, whether your application supposed to run on PCs, it's supposed to run on mobile, or it has to run on both, you will decide. Information data, what data you are uploading, what data you are creating in the application, right? All the data getting generated all the time when you use an application. Now that is again your responsibility as a customer. You don't want the cloud vendor to write it on the application. You want, as a consumer, you would be creating your own data, storing in the application, using, many things that you do on a web application or any application that you are developing, and you are using the cloud resources. The information data is completely with the customer or the consumer. Getting it? Now once you have got a understanding, it may be slightly difficult to remember all the things, but it's easy if you remember one keywords. Okay, let's start once again, because this is an important table. Responsibility transfer to cloud vendor. So think physical network, data center, anything related to physical is completely with cloud vendor. This point is clear. So these 3 things are clear. Now when it comes to responsibility, varies by type. So this is shared responsibility. This yellow category, 1, 2, 3, 4, shared responsibilities. So shared means, so if I go with IaaS, right? So in IaaS, operating system is fully mine. Software what I install is fully mine. Security patches I have to install on my own. If I go with PaaS and SaaS, the vendor will do it. The cloud vendor will install the operating system. He will keep your operating system up to date. Security patches, all these things will be installed by the vendor. Okay, I'm repeating because these are very important points. Network controls, right? Network controls mean, what are the important points I said? IP, firewall. Pretty simple to remember. So IP, firewall, everything you have to configure on your own. When it is IaaS, when it is platform as a service, few things are already installed for you and few things you configure it as needed, right? DNS and all these things. Applications means what comes to your mind? The middlewares, .NET, Java, Python, Node.js, all these things, middlewares which are required to run an application. So when it is IaaS, you only install it and you only manage it. Which version of .NET you need and all that, you only manage it. Security patches, you have to manage everything. It's your responsibility. Any application software you want to install, it's your responsibility. Middlewares and everything, right? IaaS, all these things, SQL database, right? MySQL, right? Whatever you want, you install on the IaaS. In the past, it's a shared responsibility. Based on the platform I have taken, already softwares are pre-installed. You just configure it and few things you do it. And when it comes to identity, what you have to remember? Active Directory, single sign-on. So in IaaS, you do it end to end. In PaaS and SaaS, few things are already created for you, few things you manage it. It is shared between the customer and cloud vendor. And related to data, user creation, which device the application should run, information data, this is again fully responsibility of the customer or the consumer. The next thing is platform as a service. Now, what is the difference between IaaS and PaaS? Now, PaaS stands in between two platforms. One is IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. It is the middle ground. Now, what is that? In infrastructure as a service, you are renting a space in data center. You are buying the hardware resources that you want, right? Without worrying about maintaining the physical security, physical network, physical data center, nothing you have to worry about hardwares. So that worry is gone with IaaS. With PaaS, it is a middle ground. That means your operating system installation. In IaaS, I have to install operating system. I have to do regular patches. I have to install .NET. I have to install, I have to manage the entire software stack inside IaaS. In PaaS, I get a platform. Let's say a platform or a machine which is already pre-installed with Windows OS, pre-installed with certain development kits that I need, right? So I have already, everything is pre-installed and maintained by whom? By the cloud vendor. So licensing of those softwares, everything is fully maintained by who? By the cloud vendor, operating system licensing, and everything is done. So PaaS is like you're getting a platform, and here infrastructure, every software license for that software, you buy it, you manage it, everything you do it. You just got the hardware, install whatever you want is up. It's the cloud. Now it's the customer's responsibility. In PaaS, you get a platform, already a Linux platform. I want MySQL into it. I want a Windows OS with SQL Server in it. So all as a platform, I am buying it. It's a middle ground. Software as a service, most of our web applications are generally a software as a service. So, most of them nowadays, you buy a software, it is already running somewhere. You just use it. You have a license, you log in and you start using it. So software as a service is a complete, you're paying for complete deployed solution. You don't take any headache what happens in the background, where database management, you just control on your data, who should have access, which user should have access. Only that part is your responsibility. The rest of the backend thing is fully done by the vendor. So PaaS is a middle ground. PaaS is a middle ground. We saw the table already. Now cloud vendor maintains physical data center, generally that we get as an offering in IaaS. They do it. They also maintain your OS, middlewares, development tools, etc. Don't have to worry about licensing or patching of OS or DBs. Okay, you don't have to worry. So that is the benefit of a PaaS. This is little more advanced. You get as a package. Okay, so that is PaaS or platform as a service. Next, have a look at the describe software as a service. The software as a service or SaaS is a most complete cloud service model. Why I am saying most complete? Because here you are essentially renting or using fully developed software. Software as a service. So you are getting a software as a final product. So essentially you are renting or using fully developed software. Now, what are the examples of SaaS? We all are actually using, most of us using SaaS softwares, right? For example, email is an example of a SaaS. Financial software, your banking applications or banking softwares that you're using, that is also an example of a SaaS. Your messaging application that you're using, that is also an example of a SaaS. It is the most complete cloud service model. Remember the ones which I'm highlighting yellow in color, very, very important keywords. Okay. So which is the most most complete cloud service? IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. So SaaS you would say. Okay. So fully developed software. Now here it may be least flexible for the which service is the least flexible for customer. Least flexible, you can't do much apart from using the software, right? So maybe least flexible, but most easiest to get up and running. Okay, these are the keywords which I'm highlighting, very important. Maybe least flexible and most easiest. And the next important point is most responsibility with the cloud vendor. So who would have the maximum responsibility? The maximum responsibility is with the cloud vendor, and the least responsibility will be with the customer. The customer is only responsible for the data and who's the user, who should have access, and all those things I can manage. But maximum control is with the vendor. Maximum responsibility is with the vendor. You don't have to worry about anything apart from using the software. Okay, so software as a service. Now it's time to do a quick knowledge check. I'm going to click on this knowledge check. Let's see what are the questions. Which cloud service type is most suited to lift and shift migration from on-premise data center to, I gave you an example, lift and shift. What is that? IaaS. When you already have on-premise, you want to do a lift and shift. So the answer is infrastructure as a service. Okay. Second, what type of cloud service type would a finance and expense tracking solution typically be in? So just now we saw this example. The answer is software as a service. So only two questions. Let's submit it and see. Okay. So here you can see both my answers are correct. So far we have completed describe cloud computing, describe the benefits of using cloud services, describe the cloud service types. So now the very first topic is complete. That means out of these three, the describe the cloud concept is complete. This topic, the main topic, had three different modules: describe cloud computing, this and this. So all the three are complete now. In the next video, I am going to start this particular the second main topic, which is describe Azure architecture and services.